Hey, thank you so much for joining this session. I'm Oliver Yonchev, and I'm going to be talking today about the art of going live. Art may seem dramatic, but I believe there are many nuances and many important principles to going live, and there are a lot of things that brands should consider. Before we talk about this, I want to introduce you to Social Chain if you're not familiar. Vice said some nice, kind words about us. BuzzFeed said that we're taking over. My personal favorite came from the Huffington Post. They called us the social media Illuminati. Is it good? Is it bad? I don't know, but I like it anyway. And what do? Well, we pretty much do anything and everything in social media, whether that's the strategic components, the many creative aspects, or helping brands distribute their message in creative ways. And we started 5 years ago, founded by Stephen Bartlett and Dominic McGregor in Manchester, a team of two. Fast track to today, and we're a very different business. We employ over 700 people. We're a team of creatives spanning a huge range of social disciplines. We have 6 offices globally. And despite a lot of change, one thing hasn't, and that's our obsession with understanding people. Understanding how people behave, more specifically, understanding how people behave in different environments. And the great thing about social media is many environments. So it's really, really interesting territory for marketeers to play in. And today, one of the focus points, or the main focus point, will be live. And I think live is probably a really underused vehicle, an underused marketing vehicle for brands, for a number of factors. But I think what has happened in the world right now, and the breaking down of barriers, the barriers that have existed for years, and the acceleration of transformative technological change in businesses and in our lives, I think live has become very important. Before I talk about live, I want to paint a picture. Important picture. I believe we're in a different world to what we were a few years ago. We're in a different world to what we were a few months ago. We're very much in a world where we've normalized the 1%. As I scroll down my newsfeed, I see the 1% of beauty, I see the 1% of talent, and that's set a really unrealistic expectation for me. And when I think of other factors that contribute to how I think and how I feel, I see too much. I view too much, I read too much, I listen to too much. We really are in a world of content overload. Social media as a marketing arena is incredibly challenging, it's incredibly noisy. We often compare social media to Times Square. It's very hard to stand out. It's noisy, it's brash. You know, it's so much so that my newsfeed is in the middle of Times Square, and most people never notice. And all this has an impact on our minds. Many say we have short attention spans. I don't know, I particularly dispute that. Facebook says, a 3-second view is a success, so we'll take them for their word. We know we have endless choice. We have too many things to choose from. And this really is underpinned by creating a generation that want everything now. We want everything on demand. We want to pre-program our lives exactly how we want it. And we want algorithms to serve us those things exactly how we want it. And as a result, we see the meteoric rise of the brands that you see on the screen, the Netflixes of the world, the Spotifys, the Apples, the Disney Pluses, because they deliver what we want. They deliver things on demand when we want it. And that really does have me begging the question, what role does live things have in our life? What role does live content have when we want to view everything when we want it, not when someone else says we should watch it? Good question. But when I think of live, I gravitate towards 2 places. 2 places being news and sport, current events and sport. They're 2 areas that live viewing, sport in retrospect, isn't the same. Hearing about something 2 days after it's happened isn't the same. So live has a really strong place. I started to do some more digging ahead of this talk, and I looked at the research, and the research actually surprised me, I'll be honest. hence the skeptical face on the screen. When I looked at the data, the top 5 categories, the most viewed live content is TV series and episodic content, followed by sports, followed by tutorials and how-to videos, then gaming, and then videos by friends and family. You know, when I look at the top 5 things, I think there's some parallels we can draw from that, and I think there's some real drivers of viewing. And the 3 that I took away, I think live viewing is driven by fear of missing out, FOMO. I think it's driven by technological advancement, and I think it's driven by innate wants, human wants of feeling connected and being part of a community. And I want to start and talk about fear of missing out first. Fear of loss. It's something we as marketeers use a lot. Closing down sales. Fear of loss. You know, I click on a travel website. I'm told this hotel is about to run out. This discount's not going to last for very long. These are all fear of loss tactics. And fear, like all emotions, generally drive our actions. And it comes down to basic neuroscience. Our brain is loosely split into 3 parts. The least evolved part of our brain is our primitive brain. That's the part of the brain that really wants to keep us alive. It produces our fight or flight responses. Then we have the next part of our brain, which is the limbic system. That's the emotional part of the brain. It's part of the brain that makes me love and hate and everything in the middle. And the most evolved part of our brain, the governance, is our neocortex. We often refer to that as the rational part of the brain, the CEO. That's the thing that should make us or help us to make sound decisions. From personal experience, I can say it doesn't always fire, and there's a reason for that. It doesn't always work. My rational brain, as many others, doesn't always work. And it's simply, again, down to neuroscience. Our limbic system processes information 5 times quicker than our neocortex, than our rational part. And we can all relate to reacting rather than responding. We've all retyped an email a million times. We've all held our tongue when we wanted to say something. We are emotional creatures, and it's why marketeers are obsessed. And Robert Plutchik is a leading pioneer in the hierarchy of emotions, and he does some really interesting work in the space. And he talks a lot about fear being one of the most powerful. And fear is a spectrum. When I think of it, when I look at top live viewing is like cultural programming, like Game of Thrones, sporting events. Fear and anticipation, and it's all kind of bundled into one thing. You know, I don't want to miss out on Game of Thrones, not because I can't wait to watch the next episode of Game of Thrones, because I don't want to miss out on that conversation. You know, I don't want to miss out on Love Island despite knowing it mushes my brain, because I don't want to miss out on those conversations. And the same can be said about sport. I don't want to feel left out. And this is one of the reasons why we still tune in live, despite us wanting everything now on our terms. We still tune into specific types of programming and sporting events. And I want to go one step further, and I want to illustrate fear of missing out. It can actually go to the extent where it doesn't just make us act, it makes us act strangely. A few years ago, we were speaking at a conference called Soccer X. Soccer X is the world's biggest football conference, and we were there to speak about influence and speak about virality and social behaviors and all of those things. So we started to develop a talk that talked about how culture is really important, how understanding emotions is really important. What levers do you have as marketeers? You know, understand your distribution methods, understand people, all of these things. So we started to embark on this talk, and we went one step further. We listened to the world. We wanted to know what's happening in soccer culture, in football culture. And there was a real polarizing topic, and it was that Arsenal were the only major club in the Premier League that hadn't bought a football player. So we had a big talking point. So we decided Social Chain at Soccer X was going to give them a football player, and we created one called Rexeco. As you can see here, Rexeco is an anagram of Soccer X. Went to Google, typed in football player, found the first image we could, And we said Rex Secco was 16 years old. He was going to sign for Arsenal, the football club that had an angry fan base that hadn't signed any players yet, for £34 million. He would have been the most expensive 16-year-old ever at the time. And because we have an angry fan base, we said he couldn't score a goal, as you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, to save his life. And if there's anything that we know about people, it's that all our own opinions and actions are influenced by the actions of the majority group. And we press our magic social chain button. What happens? Well, the world explodes. People are questioning, what is this Rex Secco stuff? 16 years old, 34 million. You've got to be kidding me, Arsenal. What is this stuff? After 10 minutes, people start to believe he's a great signing for Arsenal. This Rex Secco looks worth the money. 15 minutes, it rises on the trend. 20 minutes, people are talking again about his goal-scoring ability. The plot thickens. About half an hour in, we have one guy clears everything up for us. We have Jan. So Jan, poor Jan, he's been the butt of many jokes to illustrate a point, but Jan said he's been watching Rex Secco for years. He's real quality. Would love him at Liverpool. He's a great signing for Arsenal. So Jan knew something that, the world didn't. The funny thing, right? Jan wasn't alone. There were hundreds of other people had claimed to see a football player that never even existed. Why? FOMO. Jan and many others did not want to miss out on that conversation. It led him to lie. It led him to make things up. It led him to behave strangely. Anyway, the story continues to rise up the trends. It leaves social media, enters the world of Reddit. The next day, it's picked up headlines across the world. It's called football's greatest hoax. There are over 200,000 searches on football players that never even existed. 120 million impressions delivered overnight. Global impact, and Rex hangs on the wall at social chain. Great story, but the point being, FOMO is powerful. And it's a sentiment that you can use, and it's a vehicle and it's a tool that you can use in any live activation. And it's an important one. So remember that. The second thing, what is the second thing driving live consumption? Well, when we look at the data, it's a really obvious one. It's technology. Seems really obvious. Well, we're in a very connected world. 4.6 billion people are connected to the internet. That's a good starting place. But it's not just technology in the context of us being connected with one another. It's technology in terms of our bandwidth, 4G, now 5G. It's mobile technology. It's camera optics. It's accessibility. It's the on-platform technology developments that are available within social media. And what do we see? People using live in gaming, seeing the rise of platforms like Twitch. Twitch is a live community platform. It often is referred to as a social platform, but it's a live streaming community platform. And I often refer to Twitch to my parents. I would say Twitch is the biggest thing that you've never heard of. And that reflects gaming. Gaming is often the biggest thing that anyone's heard of. And that's reflected in the data when we look at what live viewing is shown. And we see it in how-to videos and tutorials. And this idea that millions upon millions of people watch other people play games live on a platform like Twitch blows the mind of many. Not for me personally, but many would find that odd, strange. But really, is it? One of the number one programs in the United Kingdom is a program called Gogglebox. Gogglebox is people watching other people watch TV. One of the most successful shows in Britain. The Bake Off. Little abstract. I'm making a stretch here as a parallel, but I think it's a funny one. The Bake Off is one of Britain's most successful programs ever created. Can you imagine pitching that, saying we're going to make one of the most successful British programs, a global export, a global phenomenon? Listen, just hold with me, bear with me. It's about, just bear with me. It's about, hold on, it's about baking. It's competition. It's about, you can see where that would go. The point being, human beings watch strange things. Third thing, powering live consumption, human desire. Humans want to feel part of something. We want to be connected. We all do. We want to be part of a community. And if COVID's taught us anything, it's that we are severely lacking in human connection. There's a picture of me and my friend's social chain, my friend's wedding. In a time where we connected like no other time in history, this idea of feeling connected really is at an all-time low. And that's been accelerated through the last couple of weeks. The data for a long time really just back that up. What you see on the screen is a variety of meaningful connections as you progress through your life. People that you feel close, feel connected to. And sadly, that dwindles to a point of just less than a handful of people by the time you get into the later stages of your life. It's quite saddening. And a lot of this to do is that human beings have always valued scarcity. We all value scarcity, gold, diamonds, people, family, connection. These are important factors. So 3 principles that I think are powering live when we look at the data is the fear of missing things out, the technology that's empowering us, and this want to be connected to people, I think are the main driver. And when I look at live viewing, streaming, conversing just became a very big part in our lives. So marketers have to pay attention. So I'm going to share some principles. Important point to note, live in social media isn't new. Some of you may be familiar with or remember Periscope. Periscope was the first major platform development, later absorbed into Twitter, that put live technology on the map. But really, it wasn't a catalyst. It was a starting place. It was Facebook that changed the live social arena back in April 2016 when they launched Facebook Live. This had conversations going across the world of sports and entertainment and rights and usage, and all these big questions were being asked. Social media was not just now a platform, it was becoming something else, and live was a big part of that. And naturally so, with huge above the line campaigns and big prominence and curiosity, people started sharing, and the sharing went as far as people going live and talking with their friends. And it was kind of a little bit like the status update. Remember the days where we just say, hey, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z and go out? People just get to camera and do that. Kind of a transition period where we were all moving to a bit more ephemerality. We were starting to do live, and brands started to think about how they could use live. And I think it's important to note that when Facebook or the platforms introduce new platform features, go use them. There's usually advantages for doing so. We in Social Chain often say that Facebook are the master puppeteers. They introduce something, they get you hooked, and then they charge you for it. That's the game, that's the commercial model, and they do it better than any. So we started thinking about live, and one thing we quickly realized, early that going live, let me be clear on this, going live and being live were and are not the same thing. Going live on a camera phone or a basic setup has limitations. It created limitations for brands creatively. You don't have an ability to edit, you don't have an ability to do a lot of things without great expense. So we started to do our research, and we understood that there were tools. We understood that there was an ability to integrate third-party technologies that allowed you to pre-record things into the live format. So using API integration, we were able to produce things ahead of time and create a live event, which completely transformed the possibilities that you could do. And we went back to our foundational principles. We started to test formats, and we started to ask the question, how does the environment affect how people behave? How does the environment affect how people behave? And the way that I suppose, the way that I would articulate that thought is that as a brand, it's very important that you change your story when the room changes. The way that I would explain the nuances of live streaming on stage would be very different to how I would explain it to my friends or to my family. But the things I would say would remain the same. And that's how you should view all social media environments as a brand. So when brands and agencies started to realize that, live did not mean live, They thought, fantastic, we have banks and banks of content that we can put on platform. And we're going to get an algorithmic boost because it's live. In the early days, if you put a live video, you would receive 5 times as many views. That's 500% on average than you would have done by posting in feed. So your efforts were 5 times as more effective by going live. What brands started to do is get archived footage, get traditional formats, put them on live, expect them to work. They were pretty, they were beautiful, they were cinematic. They did not work despite the algorithmic advantages because brands weren't considering the environment that people are watching live in. People do not watch live social in the same way that they watch traditional formats. You know, people, not so much now, but when people spend 1 minute, they spend 30 seconds, they spend 5 minutes, they say 15, they spend 20. It's very different to other forms of live viewing. You have to factor that in. So knowing this truth, this foundational truth, we took our life principles, the fear of missing out. We took the understanding that technology gave us lots of new capabilities, and we took the understanding that people want to feel connected, they want to be part of something, and we started to create formats. We started to create formats that created effective mechanics. And we had 3 rules. The formats that we found through our testing to be effective were simple formats. And the reason being, simple formats are easy to understand. And advertising generally is very bad at relaying lots of information. Simplicity often wins. It's a very basic thought, but it's very true. And what really mattered about simple formats is that people need to have an ability to leave a live stream, understanding how they behave, rejoin and still know what's going on. The simpler, the better. Fear can translate into anticipation. Fear isn't always negative. Fear can be, you want to see something. Fear, you don't want to be part. You don't want to miss out on a conversation or a crescendo or something happening. So creating formats that had something that created anticipation, we understood that would improve retention. Retention is important algorithmically, again. And the final thing is we wanted to create viral loops. When you produce content, there's a very basic rule that you want to get a lot of people commenting, liking, sharing, tagging those things. That's often what dictates how successful your content is, or certainly how far-reaching it is. So you need to create mechanics that get people to participate in. So taking the principles, taking what we know, creating formatting rules, we create some mechanics. And 3 mechanics I'm going to talk about today that I think are almost tried and tested to the point where they work very well most of the time, if not all of the time, are 3 formats. Interactive formats, these are gamified things. These are quizzes. These are great for showcasing products and things of that nature. Anticipation, these are formats where my interaction on social media creates action on the live stream itself. These formats often create maximum reach. And lastly, other great formats that are interesting are novel ones, or ones where the real world meets the social world. These are experiential activations. One of the challenges, one of the most effective forms of marketing is often experience. Like, we know that, but it's costly and it's very hard to scale. It's often limited. Rich experience is limited. Live streaming technology often allows us to extend that and introduce more people to a great experience. So the first format I want to talk about is gamified formats, interactive formats. So what you see on the screen here is a very simple format. A format goes back I'm not going to say as far as time, but a format that goes back a long way, and that's a quiz. So what you see on the screen here is every single minute we would produce a question, and these live streams would typically last for 1 hour. So you would have 60 questions in 1 hour. And what you would do, they would be questions relating to things that are happening in the world. There would be questions that relate to the brand, questions that are relevant, questions that will be in the tone of the voice of the brand. And every single minute, we would give away a prize. And that prize would appear on the right-hand side of the screen. And on the left-hand side of the screen would be a winner, pulled in at real time, at random, using the technology that we developed. So a lot of things going on here. Very simple, basic formula, a lot of things going on. First and foremost, the brand has an opportunity to showcase 60 products in an hour, a whole range of products to a lot of people. Secondly, lots of people commenting is a viral loop. And you commenting, you're introducing your followers, you're introducing your network to the feed, creating viral loop, which in turn creates mass reach. So these metrics, and then the last thing that you have is what you see on the screen on the left-hand side. You have a winner in real time, social proofing. It's real, it's live. This is going on now. That's what makes it special. And overall, it's a simple format. I can join at the start of this thing, I can join at the end, and I can participate. Very simple formats, lots going on. The result, well, as you see here, this particular live stream, and we did well over 100 of these, or continue to do these with brands. This particular live stream reached over 4.5 million people, 790,000 engagements, 18% engagement rates, 750,000 views, all within the space of an hour. Mind-blowing. Second important metric, things that create anticipation. Anticipation, the bedfellow of fear. So the format you see on the screen is another simple one. And what we did is we were briefed to promote a new airline route for an airline at the time, a transatlantic route going from the UK to Manchester. And to do this, we created an event invite in advance, and we invited people to participate into this giveaway. It was a simple giveaway. And we would put a pair of tickets into a block of ice. And the more that people commented, so the more the audience's interactions would create more action on the screen, meaning we would turn up the heaters, and and the tickets would melt. What this ultimately does is just create mass reach. Lots of people commenting melt in rapid form, introduces a lot more people to the feed. It's simple format, people get it, and people want to see that crescendo. People want to see what happens at the end. People want to participate for the end. And with these type of formats, we did them time and time again for movie releases, for a whole host of things. There's many different creative executions with the exact same format. But one thing that's important to note is we'd be naive to think that people were going to stay at the start and be there till the end. So in order to improve retention, we would introduce elements of spontaneity, spot prizes, things would happen in between. Second to last thing I'm going to talk about is experience, bringing the real world and the social world together. On the left-hand side of the screen, again, another gamified format, a treasure hunt. So what you see here is every time people comment, and we got to certain comment volumes, what would happen is we would start to introduce one of the locations or give away a clue or zoom out, or many variations of that. In doing so, this would often lead to huge participation. Again, tremendous reach numbers, tremendous engagement numbers. But really what this would do for the brand is it would take experiential activity and bring a whole host of people that couldn't be there to experience it, introduce them into that part and strengthen that relationship. And we've done many variations of this. Some of the more extreme have seen us control live events, control what music was played, control the pyrotechnics, what color, what was going to be up next from a social audience perspective. They were some of the more ambitious, but that's where you take experience and the social world and you merge worlds. Last thing I'm going to talk about, a little bonus. I think this is an effective live streaming tactic, and this goes back to cultural relevances, things that are novel, things that are interesting. As long as they're well timed, will do well. A really successful one we had was for World Puppy Day, where we instead of creating a catwalk, we created a puppy walk for a fashion brand, Boohoo. And instead of me talking about it, I'm going to play it just because it's very cute.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the world's first live puppy catwalk.
You have no idea how difficult it was to find 2 talking dogs. So as you can see from this example, this would be not impossible, but incredibly challenging in a traditional live setting. But the ability to pre-record, the ability to edit, but deploy that and play to all the live metrics meant that we could do some interesting things and continue to do interesting things. And as a result of that, Social Chain are responsible for 9 of the 10 top branded live streams globally that you see. And the video I'm going to play you now is just a collection of a whole host of different ways to activate against the whole plethora of work. One of my favorites was actually we did in the United Kingdom Bonfire Night, where we blew up a beetle. Incredible. There are a lot of challenges with that, the build up, the pyrotechnics, all of those things. But yeah, look, the point being, you can have a lot of fun with live. Lastly, I'm just going to touch on a few innovations with live. We talked a lot about Facebook and the capabilities that you have there, but it's important to look at other areas. Isaac Martin, the gentleman on the screen, is our head of innovation and live streaming at Social Chain. And he's pioneered a lot of these techniques and often helps facilitate and has developed a lot of the technology, proprietary technology that enhances our capabilities. And this video I'm about to play to you shows you a quick narrative how Isaac took something that was impossible and did a world first. We brought a pre-recorded live stream to an Instagram environment when it was not possible. And this is now something that we're able to do for brands. Under pressure. Sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. Get a good feeling. Let's get it. I know you got to get feeling. Let's get it. You gotta love the life that we live in. Sometimes I get a good feeling. I get a good feeling, yeah. Take that one step further. This would have been a world first, actually, innovation. So, you know, social shopping, live shopping in traditional formats, but using social technology is huge business. We see it all across Asia, particularly in China. I think there was in excess of 40 billion worth of goods was sold last year in China simply through live shopping on social platforms. Up until last week, when Facebook shopping rolled out, there wasn't an ability to buy things through going live and to do this type of format. So we combined technology to be able to create a live shopping experience. And this is a really interesting one for brands that have specific launches, have the right price point. Being able to sell something impulsively on the spot isn't for everybody, isn't for every mechanic, isn't for every product, but for some it can be tremendously effective. And this is the innovation that we developed. It's just occurred to me. Just occurred to me that all our case study or product service videos have incredibly dramatic music. Finally, last thing to share with you is something that many people don't know, that you can go live on TikTok. So again, live has limitations, we know that. So what happens when you take the capabilities of being able to pre-record creative and apply that to TikTok? And I'm about to show you a video that explains that. TikTok is really it's a platform that has accelerated tremendously through COVID. We've looked at the data, and what's fascinating, for the longest time it was very much a young person's platform. You look at the data now, and families who have children, about 30% of parents aged between 25 and 45 now use TikTok if they have children. So we're seeing children influence, and we're seeing parents become addicted to TikTok. It's a very addictive platform in many respects. And one of the reasons it's successful, there are a whole host of reasons it's successful, but it's very much a playful arena for escapism in more ways than one. And they did some very clever things when it came to how, they made sharing content outside of platform very easy with the TikTok watermark. They latched to music and integrated that into creative process like no other platform. A whole host of reasons that they're successful. One interesting area for brands is live, and people don't know you can go live. And this is again another development, a world first of introducing live technology, pre-recorded live technology into TikTok.
Story time. So we've been experimenting with TikTok videos, and we've seen amazing results. But we noticed that nobody was doing anything interesting with TikTok Live. Most people don't even know that you can go live on TikTok. Regular TikToks give you the option to include hundreds of filters, effects, and transitions. But with TikTok Live, you don't get any of that. You just open your camera, you start filming, and it streams. That's it. No filters, no augmented reality, no stickers, no text overlays. But we thought, hang on a minute, that's a complete waste, because we know how powerful live video can be. We've done it 1,000 times. So then we thought, what if we brought live videos that look like that to TikTok's 500 million users and increase the platform's potential even more? An exciting thought, right? But there was one tiny problem. TikTok doesn't let you do this in their app. So we built our own tool using a version of TikTok's API and some custom code. This tool lets us bypass TikTok's native camera and upload videos directly to the app from our server. Then we just have to send a signal when we want to begin streaming. That means that we can design a video template using any editing software and include whatever effects we want. And I mean anything. Now, I know what you're thinking. Okay, well, that's just pre-recorded video live streamed, right? Wrong. This is where it gets interesting. With our tool, you can keep editing, adding new things to your video in real time and watch them appear in the live stream. We can also sync up real-time events in the video with comments from the audience and engineer it so the live stream actually changes the second someone comments. For example, every time you comment "pop" in this video of a balloon, it triggers the balloon to inflate until the balloon finally pops. If this was for a competition, then the last person to comment "pop" before the balloon bursts would win. This means that we can control the physical environment of a stunt, like choosing how the balloon is shot and when it's inflated. We can edit the design of the video by adding any overlays, branding, or text, but we don't lose the interactive nature of a real-time live stream through things like comment triggers, making your TikToks way more engaging in the process. That's what we call a dynamic live. Unlimited effects, total control, now on TikTok.
So we finished on a few product videos. Hopefully they were helpful. And I just want to recap. And recap two important factors: live principles. Live viewing is powered by a few things. It's powered by our emotions, particularly our fear of missing out. It's powered by the world of technology and all the variants of that. And it's also powered by our desires to feel connected and want to be a part of a community. And for those reasons, you're able to then create very simple formatting rules. And the formatting rules that we live by: create simple formats. Create formats that allow people to leave and return and still understand what's happening. Use anticipation, the bedfellow of fear. Create formats that improve retention as a result of that. And finally, think about community. Think about wanting to be a part of something. Think about interacting with people. Think about asking a question. All of those things matter, and in doing so, you create viral loops and get the kind of results that you would expect from great marketing. Our job as a business, we talk about it being that we want to keep brands at the forefront of what's possible. And we do that through many things. A lot of it is to do with our willingness and our willingness to try and experiment. And live is an area that I encourage you all to go experiment and download Twitch. Go live, LinkedIn, TikTok, podcast, play on House Party. I think there's a ton of opportunity for brands. And thank you. And if anyone has any questions specifically about social change live capabilities, or any questions relating to this talk, or just wants to speak about anything, you can email me at oliver@socialchain.com, or message me on Instagram, DM me on Instagram or Twitter at Oliver Yonchev. And thank you so much.